So we'll start with the first slide of the PowerPoint, please. So I'll just talk you through, first of all, what we'll be covering this evening, and we'll have time for questions at a few points if they come up, and we'll have a dedicated question and answer moment at the end. So seeing with the eyes of the heart. So we'll start with what are the eyes of the heart, and we'll look at how they're different and how they behave differently from the eyes of the mind. We'll look at what happens when we start to see ourselves with the eyes of the heart. And we'll do this through a media clip that we'll share, and also through a guided visualization. Then we'll take this perspective into our relationships, and we'll begin to look at how seeing with the eyes of the heart is one of the greatest, most useful tools in our relationships, whether these are romantic relationships, family relationships, even work, how this perspective can really help us to have happier and more successful relationships. We'll move on to looking at the concept of beauty being in the eyes of the beholder, and we'll look at a slightly different spin upon this popular concept. And we'll finish with a group exercise for seeing with the eyes of the heart. So putting things into practice, as we like to do here at Venus. We like for things to be very practical. So hopefully by the end of today's session, you'll have a much clearer idea of not just what these things are, but also how you can implement them in your personal life and your wider life, and the kind of effects that these might have on your experience. So we'll move on to the next slide, please. So I'll just tell you a bit about Venus quickly for those of you who are new tonight. So we're a group of friends. We're all yoga practitioners and teachers, and we aim to practice what we preach. So we all part of Venus on a volunteer basis, and we aim to really live these principles that we teach women about. So our mission is to facilitate a spiritual awakening for all of humanity through awakening women. And we hope to do this by helping women to become more free, authentic, fulfilled, and better able to express themselves and understand themselves in all areas. And also through promoting authentic feminine values. And we consider that through these authentic feminine values, which would include what we'll be doing tonight, aiming to see with the eyes of the heart, that this will, as these regain their rightful place in the world, and as these become more widely used, more accepted, more popular, that this will lead to a greater happiness and peace and harmony, and accelerate the overall awakening of humanity. And so my name is Miranda Grace, and I'm a teacher here at Venus. I also teach women's Tantra circles at Venus, which we'll speak about a bit later on. And yeah, I'm extremely happy to be with you tonight, especially, as I said to those who are here right at the beginning, at the moment of spring equinox, which is considered in some traditions actually the beginning of the new year. So yeah, it's a really great moment to come together in this way and try something new and a fresh perspective, spring-like perspective. Okay, next slide, please. So what are the eyes of the heart? So the eyes of the heart are not physical. We can project them into the physical, but they're rooted in the heart and in this energy of unconditional love. So not love as an exchange, as a transaction, but love as an energy which is without conditions and comes through us as a flow. And it's not a finite love. It's the more that we share of it, the more that we have. It's abundant. It's not limited. So these eyes of the heart, this attitude, sees beyond the personality and the personal, beyond appearances, and sees into the depths of the soul. So when we're looking with the eyes of the heart, whether at ourselves or at others, we can see through this this attitude of looking into the depths and looking with this energy of unconditional love. We can see a deeper and a higher reality than the one that we see if we're just thinking about the surface appearances, if we're just looking, let's say, with the physical eyes. So the eyes of the heart are pure. They're kind of like the eyes of a child. They're not corrupted by judgments and thoughts and inhibitions and preferences. Things should be this way. I would look much better if I was 5 kilos less. I am only into men who are of a certain height. None of these kind of very subjective and temporary changing conditions are conditions of the heart. These are all kind of preferences, and they don't come from our original pure innocent kind of childlike space. They're usually kind of layers that come on from childhood, from our culture, from our previous experiences. But yes, they don't show us or the others in their truest and highest light. And the eyes of the heart, when we look in this way, we automatically, through also this energy of unconditional love, tuning into the higher frequency. We're becoming less subjective, and we're seeing a more universal, spiritual perspective upon things. Okay, whereas the eyes of the mind, so if we can move on to the next slide. So the eyes of the mind are, I suppose this is the more usual way of looking at things. The greatest example of unconditional love that we see usually around is motherhood. Some of you may be mothers, but mothers can often see with the eyes of the heart. They have unconditional love. They always see the best in their child. Always see them in their highest light. Whereas the eyes of the mind are rooted in this very mental, rigid energy of evaluation, comparison, and judgment. So these are 3 things that the mind loves to do, all of them really pointless because everyone is totally unique, but it loves to evaluate, okay, let me look at myself, let me look at this person and judge the value based on a list of criteria. It's this criteria is very rigid. It doesn't change according to the person, and that's just the way it is. Comparison, no 2 things are ever going to be the same. So comparison is a very pointless exercise, but one that the mind loves. And judgment. We often pass judgment extremely quickly. And one of the ways that we judge quickest is based upon physical appearance. So yeah, these are what the eyes of the mind focus on: surface level things, appearance, personality, clothes, social groups, race, all of these things which are very superficial are the things that it kind of clings on to. And these are usually snap judgments that happen very fast. In fact, if you can aim to notice these happening next time you're walking around, it's usually more obvious with people when we're meeting new people, but it also happens with people that we love when we're coming from the eyes of the mind. But if you notice when these snap judgments come up about the way that someone is dressed or the way they're walking, the first thing they say, and boom, the mind makes that judgment. This is the eyes and the perception of the mind, and you're not coming from this place of the heart of aiming to feel who and what they are beyond these very kind of snap judgment level things. So they usually see only the material perspective, and it's all about them. It's all about what's the best thing for my ego, basically, what's going to make me look and feel good, usually in a very temporary sense, because the satisfaction of the ego is never lasting. It's unfulfillable. It's never satisfied. Okay, so the eyes and the heart of the heart and the eyes of the mind are two very different approaches, and the one that we most commonly see, and even most of us are conditioned to have as a perspective, is the one of the eyes of the mind. We're taught that, perhaps even especially as women, that this is safe, that this is sensible, that we should go around with this set of criteria that we judge people and scenarios upon, and that's the best idea. Whereas the eyes of the heart teach us quite a different approach, and one that is not so much rooted in fear or judgment or separation, but rooted in love and trust, and a kind of acknowledgement of our fundamental unity, our fundamental similarities. So this can be kind of encapsulated in a tantric concept called Transfiguration. Some of you might have heard of this if you're Harry Potter fans, but it's nothing to do with kind of magicking things. It's a type of magic, but not a Harry Potter type. So Transfiguration literally means to see beyond, trans, the figure. So this exists in many spiritual traditions. In Christianity, we have this idea that man is made in God's image and likeness. In Sufism, we have this concept of knowledge of the heart. And Rumi describes Sufism as to find joy in the heart at the coming of sorrow. So this is a lot to do with perspective, and that it's not so much about what happens to us, but as about the way that we choose to see that, how we choose to look at it, and our perspective upon it. So I think it was Gandhi or Ramana Maharishi who also said something similar. You do not experience your suffering, you suffer your experiencing. And this is a difficult concept for many people because it's one of self-responsibility, and it's easier and more difficult in some scenarios than others. But it's always possible. Humans are capable of so much more than what we acknowledge ourselves to be capable of. You also see this in Vedanta and a lot of this kind of mindfulness and meditation approaches, this concept of you are not the body. The Tantric perspective, on the other hand, sees the body and the soul in their highest light in order for us and for them to reach up to it. So it's this concept of self-deification, which means to become more pure, to become more in touch with spirit, and to raise ourselves from a human level to become more and more divine, let's say. And perhaps this isn't that crazy to some people, because it's a very similar concept in self-improvement, even in kind of counseling and some of these psychology approaches, self-betterment. But yes, the Tantric perspective is that this is possible, extremely possible, with the body, as well as with the soul. It's kind of and the personality or the mind. It's a more holistic approach. So Transfiguration is also an effective approach for addressing issues like low self-esteem, body dysmorphia. Thanks, Katie. We can take off the slides for a moment now. All of these, kind of issues with varying degrees of seriousness that are basically rooted essentially in low self-esteem and a concept of self, which is, from our perspective, not a true one. So many of us perceive ourselves as, we see that I am the body, and that my value is based upon how I look, or who my boyfriend is, or what my job is, or how much money I've got, or what others think of me. But the idea with Transfiguration is that we are none of these things, and that our sense of self-worth and our perspective upon ourselves and upon others is based upon something much more profound, and based on a knowledge of a much deeper truth of who we are. And it's reflected in many other traditions that, you know, we were given these bodies for a reason, and that they are sacred, and that once we start to see ourselves in that light, things change. And I can certainly say from my perspective that I used to be, I don't know if I would put a label on it like body dysmorphia, but I definitely used to, and I've seen many other women who are like this too. I used to, I didn't have a realistic self-concept of how I looked. You know, I would, the points when I was slimmest, I thought that I was really fat. And, you know, we tend to have this very harsh and unrealistic self-judgment. And it's based upon a set of criteria which are very cultural and temporary and superficial, and perpetuate the cycle of the mind that I spoke about earlier, which is one of unending dissatisfaction, because you're constantly going for another goal, and then as soon as you reach it, it doesn't bring the true fulfillment that comes from being rooted in these energies of the heart, like unconditional love, like acceptance, like seeing the beauty in things. So yeah, I don't know if any of these experiences are ones that anyone can relate to. Feel free to share in the chat, or to share by voice before we go to our first exercise. Yeah, I would love to hear if any of you want to share your experiences about this.
I can share something. I think it's a beautiful thing, and it's also inspiring if it's the first time that people are hearing these concepts.
I would like to share something.
Sorry, I don't know if someone was speaking before you, Maria. I couldn't hear, like the sound was very low.
Okay, I must have a problem.
Yeah,
It's
who's
okay.
speaking right there?
It's
Is that
Olivia.
Olivia?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better. If you go first, and then Maria, if you go second, that's
Okay,
great.
sorry. So
Sure.
it's just if it's the first time you're hearing these kind of concepts, it might sound a bit weird what I'm gonna say, but it's really beautiful because when you actually look at the world with these eyes, you know, the eyes from the heart, like Miranda was saying, you will see that the world will start to change. I've had that. I was at work and the people were just difficult. The boss was difficult. And I just started to use this, to just see them from a highest light and treat them, with this respect and with the respect and transfiguration. And they literally, after 1 year, the boss was giving gifts to people and people just started to change. So it's quite magical, really. It might take a while. So it's not like all right, we do it now and the results are now. You'll see the results in people after a while. It's quite amazing. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to speak a bit later about how this can work, this attitude of transfiguration in relationships. But yeah, absolutely, it is a type of magic, and people can really rise to this when you give them the opportunity. Thank you, Maria. Did you want to share something?
Yeah, I would just like to share that I really resonate with the ego concept because for the past few years I was like very selfish. I was like, about academics and about being the best in class or getting the best job, and I was in this cycle of being dissatisfied about everything, and I just became more and more negative, more and more stressed, and I was like, why is this happening? And when I discovered the spiritual path, you know, I'm experiencing chronicity, like everything is just gone upside down. And I was like, so this is what I was doing wrong. So yeah, I really resonate with the whole transfiguration, ego, mind, and heart perspective.
Thank you for sharing. Well, we were given this amazing, crazy gift called free will, right? We can literally choose to have so many different perspectives, so many different life experiences. So yeah, it's really amazing. Ellie, you want to
fact,
share something?
I wanted to ask, what is body dysmorphia? I've never come across this term.
It's kind of this. I mean, you know, it's become it's a kind of technical term now, but it's this kind of warped view of yourself. So people who they literally can't really see themselves, so they will, you know, they'll think they'll be very thin and they'll think that they're very fat, or they'll think that, for example, they've got, you know, something strange in their face and they haven't, or, you know, it's kind of a warped perspective, not based on the physical reality necessarily of the body.
A sort of distortion vision of
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, exactly, Anna. Okay, so we're going to watch a short clip now, just about the importance of the way that we see ourselves, and kind of accepting also this notion of beauty as being something universal and something sublime and something that we all are, that we don't have to necessarily fulfill a set of criteria to be. So if we could share the clip, please. It's just 3 minutes.
I'm a forensic artist. Worked for the San Jose Police Department from 1995 to 2011.
I showed up to a place I'd never been, and there was a guy with a drafting board.
We couldn't see them, they couldn't see us.
Tell me about your hair.
I didn't know what he was doing, but then I could tell after several questions that he was drawing me.
Tell me about your chin.
It kind of protrudes a little bit, especially when I smile.
Your jaw.
My mom told me I had a big jaw.
What would be your most prominent feature?
I kind of have a fat, rounder face.
The older I've gotten, the more freckles I've gotten.
I would say I have a pretty big forehead.
Once I get a sketch, I say thank you very much, and then they leave. I don't see them.
All I had been told before the sketch was to get friendly with this other woman, Chloe.
Today I'm gonna ask you some questions about a person you met earlier, and I'm gonna ask you some general questions about their face.
She was thin, so you could see her cheekbones. And her chin, it was a nice, thin chin.
She had nice eyes. They lit up when she spoke.
Cute nose.
She had blue eyes, very nice blue eyes.
So here we are. This is the sketch that you helped me create, and that's a sketch that somebody described of you.
So yeah, that's...
She looks closed off and fatter, sadder too. The second one looks more open, friendly, and happy.
I should be more grateful of my natural beauty. It impacts the choices and the friends that we make, the jobs we apply for, how we treat our children. It impacts everything. It couldn't be more critical to your happiness.
Do you think you're more beautiful than you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
We spend a lot of time as women analyzing and trying to fix the things that aren't quite right. And we should spend more time appreciating the things that we do like.
Okay, so we're going to have a practical part now. And I would like you, if you have close by either your phone or a picture of yourself, a photo, I would like you to take it now. If you don't have one or it's far away, don't worry, you can do it without. But we'll just have about 15 seconds to get those. Okay. So once you have your photo, and if you have a choice, if you have your phone or something, just choose one of the first ones. And maybe not necessarily one of your favorites, because we often have a criteria as women that, you know, these are the photos that I like of myself and all of the other ones are terrible. So maybe if you have the opportunity to select one of the ones that you generally reject, try doing that. Okay, so we're going to start just by looking at this photo and recognizing what are the first thoughts and the first judgments that come up in our minds. And you can either make a note of these on a piece of paper, or you can just recognize them, accept them, and let them go. So we'll just spend a few seconds noticing what are the first thoughts and judgments we have, perceptions when we look at, feelings when we look at these photos. Okay, and now that we've recognized these, noted them down maybe, and let them go, we're going to close our eyes for a second. And when we open them again, we're going to be seeing with the eyes of the heart. And we're going to look at this photo from the space of the heart with that energy of acceptance, unconditional love, of seeing the true nature, the sublime beauty that is the essence of all of our souls. If it helps you, you can blur slightly the eyes, blur slightly your vision. And for a few moments, just project this energy of seeing the love and the beauty and seeing yourself in your highest possible light, seeing yourself even as the living goddess, if you connect to that. So we'll just spend a moment or so seeing ourselves now actively with this love and with these eyes of the heart. And now we close our eyes and we take this picture, whether it's digital or physical, and we place it next to our hearts and we hold it there. And we visualize using the immense power of creative visualization. We visualize the love, the unconditional love acceptance, the natural beauty of the heart. We visualize it embracing this picture of ourselves and holding it very closely, almost like we would cradle a child or a baby, and sending this image a lot of unconditional love, acceptance, and the gift of seeing it in its highest truth. We stay with the eyes closed just for a few seconds more. And we feel this energy of unconditional love, this perspective of seeing with the eyes of the heart. And we notice the changes that it's made, that it makes in us, in the way we feel, in the way we see. And when you're ready, we slowly come back. If you'd like to share anything about how the exercise, the experience was for you, then please do share in the chat. And we're going to carry on with the PowerPoint and looking at how this perspective of seeing with the eyes of the heart and this energy of transfiguration can impact also our relationships and impact other people. So, seeing with the eyes of the heart is a really great tool for improving our relationships. One of the things that we often do in relationships is that we come from the place of the ego, from what our ego wants, what it thinks it needs, what it thinks it should have, and who it thinks it should have it from, which is usually everything from that person it has chosen, based upon often certain criteria. And so it's a lot of projection and it's a lot of weight to put on someone else. Whereas when we start seeing with the eyes of the heart, so we stop with these projections, we start accepting and adoring from the heart and relating to the reality of the other. So not what we think they should be or what they should do to make us happy, then we're coming from this place of acceptance and unconditional love, and we can start to see them in their highest light. I can see that we have some sharings in the chat. We'll just go through those quickly before we continue. The sense of completion, yeah, absolutely. So much what we're looking for on the outside and we feel is missing is this in ourselves. It's this sense of completeness of the soul. Wrinkles, yeah, I also see them. But, these are judgments of the mind. It's okay, these are my criteria, and this is what I don't like. And I'm going to focus on that intently. And then we end up having a really miserable time because we're focusing on the wrinkles. And often other people don't even see them. And, these are surface level things. They're there right now. They weren't there before, and one day they won't be there either. But the energy of beauty is. Sadness, yeah, it's good to notice that. Yeah, good. Okay, so we'll go back to, thank you for your sharing, and we'll go back to looking at relationships and how transfiguration and seeing with the eyes of the heart can help these. And we will certainly have some tools as well, Soraya, hopefully by the end. You'll have more kind of tools in your toolbox to improve this relationship with yourself. So when we're in love, truly in the heart, this kind of honeymoon phase, we see the best qualities in others. And everything has these kind of rosy tinted glasses. But there's no reason why this cannot continue. Because when we see others in this light, we empower them to transform and grow. So those of you who have children or have seen children, or maybe you remember even from your own childhood, children tend to either play up or live up to the expectations that we set for them. So, if they get labeled as kind of the naughty one, and she's just the naughty, or he's the naughty kid, and that's what they do, then they tend to, they know that this is what they've been labeled as, and they tend to play up to this. To this kind of attitude of, well, that's what you think I am, well, screw you, I'm going to be that. Whereas if we have this positive reinforcement and seeing them in their highest light, and praising the positive things that they do well, then their self-confidence increases. They recognize that they see that they're getting recognition for this, and they rise to the challenge. And the same is true in a different way, of course, for human beings, for adults, not just small human beings, big ones. And I've certainly experienced myself, thank you, Kati, in relationships, we'll just come out of the PowerPoint for a sec, that when I've been in this place of judgment and seeing with the eyes of the mind and very much projecting this criteria onto the other of what I think that they should be, that it leads to a lot of disharmony and a lot of unhappiness. Whereas the more that I've experienced it, the more that I can see them in this higher light and aim to actively look at him as in his highest truth, he kind of rises to become that. He starts to embody it. I don't know if anyone else has another experience with seeing with the eyes of the heart in relationships that they'd like to share, whether romantic relationships or, as Olivia mentioned earlier, work relationships, family. Has anyone else had this experience of people kind of raising their level to meet this energy of love that we're projecting towards them? No worries if not. Okay, so we'll continue with going into a bit deeper this concept of beauty and what it is. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This is, it's a phrase that's certainly common in English. I don't know if it's also common in other cultures. And people tend to take it to mean that that beauty is kind of, or the perception of beauty is subjective, that some people like one thing and other people like another thing, that it's kind of personal preference, which takes beauty and makes it something very personal and subjective. The Tantric spiritual perspective on beauty isn't that it's subjective or this question of kind of personal taste, but that it's an energy. It's a divine energy and a frequency. It has a high level frequency of vibration. It's something which is present already within us in a realized or potential form, and it's present within the universe, and we can kind of tune into this every time we see it. And each time that we tune into this beauty around us and see it, we become more kind of in tune with this the radio frequency of beauty. And we find that the more we see it, the more we notice it. A great way to do this is in nature. Nature has this quality of kind of being able to spontaneously awaken this state of wow, this wonder in us at seeing its beauty. So I find it's a great place to start. Seeing the beauty and kind of attuning ourselves more to this, and as we do that, then we can also start to see it more in people, in different life situations, and as we connect to this energy, we can come to see it in almost any person or situation. And it's connected a lot, like I was saying just now with the relationship, to this energy of acceptance. That when you accept and even love a person, a situation, even if it or they are very challenging, through this energy of acceptance, firstly you learn from it. You instead of being in resistance to it, you can start to recognize that it's come into your life and your experience for a reason, and to learn from it. And secondly, you'll find that through acceptance and love, it's like a water or a fertilizer on the kind of the seeds of this energy within the other. The more that we give them the more, whether it's a situation, another person, or even ourselves, the more that we give them this fertilizer and this water of love and acceptance, and seeing them in their highest light, the more they grow up to this. And sorry, there's a little spelling mistake there. But another example of this that I like is the story of the ugly duckling. So, the way that I used to think this was, the moral of this story was that there's this poor grey ugly duckling, and one day it grows up and it becomes beautiful. Snap. But through looking at the story through the eyes of the heart, and through this ideal of transfiguration, we can see it that the water was the mirror of the eyes of the heart or the soul. And as the ugly duckling started to see with the eyes of the heart, and to see the true beauty of its soul, it then turned into the beautiful swan, not because it was changing physically necessarily, but because it was coming to see its true nature. So this is it's a great gift that we can offer to ourselves and to everyone around us, and really changes not only our experience through our perspective, but also changes others' experience of interacting with us. So it's a gift that we can give to others as well, kind of in the everyday, a gift that can be given even without them knowing it sometimes. Okay, so we're going to do another little practical exercise here. So we're going to stop the recording for a moment, because I'm going to ask everyone, please, to turn on their cameras. And we're going to go into gallery view. For some of you, this may really not be possible for whatever reason, and that's okay. But everyone and everyone who can, if you can turn on the cameras. And for a few moments, we're going to practice, and you can either do this with a kind of overall vision of the screen, or you can do it one by one, or you can do it first of all one by one and then with the overall vision. We're going to practice looking at the women present here through the eyes of the heart. So not allowing these eyes of the mind, of comparison, judgment, evaluation to come in, but seeing with the eyes of the heart, and seeing with this acceptance and this unconditional love all of the beauty and the wonderful characteristics that each one of them have. And we can even write at the end or as it comes up these qualities in the chat. So we'll just have a few moments centered in the heart of seeing each other and ourselves through these eyes. Healing, beautiful, thank you. Yeah. Love you too. And this can be very challenging. You know, the first few times that I did this, I found it very challenging. We're not used to connecting in this way. Usually connecting through the eyes in this loving and heart-centered, transfiguring way is something that we only do in very intimate situations, if at all. So, you know, it's something that can be very challenging to do in a group with women who we don't know. And you can even feel some resistance in yourself, maybe, to being seen in this way. You know, all of these things are normal. And yeah, very beautiful. Admiration and curiosity, light and feminine power, sweetness of the soul, and feeling this heart opening. Yeah, me too. Exuberance, angelic and feminine, Juliet. So lovely, Juana. Thank you for that sharing. So each of us, as we can see, also very shown very beautifully there in Juana's sharing as well, is that we're all completely unique, and that we all have and express completely unique, wonderful qualities. And with this concept of beauty, it's one that has often been made by society and by our minds into something very narrow and conditional, and something that doesn't include wrinkles, or that doesn't include, you know, whatever it is you have decided you don't like about yourself. And this exercise for me shows us that it includes so much, and this beauty of the soul includes so much. Thank you. So how can we practice transfiguration and seeing with the eyes of the heart in the everyday? So if we can go back to the slides, Kati, I'm actually going to share a very nice clip from a film with all of you that you can watch kind of in your own time, which shows very nicely this attitude of seeing with the eyes of the heart and transfiguration in relationships, and how it can help, in this case it's a man, the other that we're in a relationship with, to really raise to that level at which we see them, and to start to see themselves in a way that they hadn't done before, and that we can offer this huge gift of truth and self transformation to people. Seeing the beauty in all women, absolutely. It's these things are deeply healing and transforming. So here's the clip if you want to save and watch it later in your own time. So one way that we can practice transfiguration in the everyday, so we already spoke about nature, connecting with nature and recognizing the beauty in nature, and then aiming to recognize it more and more in people and small things around us, and aiming to see, as we did just now, to really connect with people through the heart and through the eyes, with whoever you connect with in your everyday, and to see them in their highest light. Another way we can put it into practice is in women's Tantra circles. So women's Tantra circles are a very similar kind of environment and ambience to what we have going on here. It's a group of women coming together with similar curiosity, similar attitudes and interests, and with primarily this desire and this impulse to be happier, to feel more complete, to love themselves more, to have better relationships, to feel more fulfilled. And to heal, to have more love, and maybe to heal their relationship with themselves and with the feminine. So this circle of women coming together is something it's a very ancient practice. Women have been doing it in different traditions for centuries. I'm sure they used to do it many centuries ago, much more. So it's a really wonderful thing that we can do to come together in this way. And starting very soon, next Thursday, the 25th, we are launching, myself and another teacher, Andra, and also Andrea in Manchester. We're launching a new module, brand new, of these women's Tantra circles. So the first module, each of the modules, and there's 5 in a year, are 6 sessions long. The first one beginning next Thursday. Session 1 will look at what is Tantra generally. Session 2, Tantra and the Tantric path for modern women. 3, the benefits of being part of a spiritual group of women. And this doesn't mean that you need to sign up to everything. For some people they want community, and for some people they don't. But there are certain kind of subtle energetic benefits of being part of a spiritual group of women that accelerate our development in a way that doesn't happen when we're doing things on our own. It's this kind of group energy, group meditations, and many other things. In session 4, we'll look at tantric femininity, so the tantric perspective on what it means to be a woman, and how being a woman in the tantric tradition is really seen as being a huge gift and a blessing. And it gives us quite a different perspective on how we can enjoy and embody our femininity. Session 5 will look at seeing and treating the body as a temple, and transfiguration and seeing with the eyes of the heart is certainly a big part of this, though we'll learn many more ways of doing this, and we'll learn some great exercises, practices for that. And finally, in session 6, we'll begin to look at our emotional world and emotions versus feelings, and some different techniques for managing our emotions and understanding our emotions and feelings on a daily basis. So we do this through things like learning daily rituals, dance, chakra dance, exercises for connecting to the eternal feminine in different ways, visualizations, affirmations, looking at diet, aphrodisiacs, mindfulness, tantric breath work, and many more things. This is just some of them. And also through coming together in this way and sharing and supporting each other. It's a huge kind of energetic support and impulse for all of us who are interested in this path of transformation as women. So you're all invited, very warmly invited to that. I would love to see you there. And maybe I think Catalin will also share in the chat about sign up details for women's Tantra circles, and also for some of our other upcoming events at Venus, other things that we have going on at the moment. We have the Tantric massage course for women coming up. We have euphoric dance with Andrea that you can still join. So whilst Katy is just sharing that, would anyone like to share any of their experiences from today with any of the exercises, or from seeing with the eyes of the heart, or from their experience in other women's Tantra circles, or anything you feel to share, or any questions? Is there anyone who's already in a women's Tantra group who would share maybe something about their experience?
I am in one, and it's been so important to me over the years of having children, doing a job, all that kind of thing. And it's just, for me, it's just really kept alive the flame of being a woman and all that, and my spiritual journey as a woman. And I can't say how important it's been for me and how much happiness it's brought me. And yeah, how transforming it's been as well. I think I kind of grew up sort of like competing with men and sort of being quite, I don't know, I don't really know how to describe it, but it's totally changed my life. So yeah, anyone who isn't in one, I would thoroughly recommend it.
Thank you so much, Juliet. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share before we go? So we have here in the chat some of our other upcoming events. Here are details about the Women's Tantra Circle. We've got Goddess Nights, which is a monthly gathering of a different kind of traditional women's arts. The first one is Sensual Dance Party. We'll also have later on storytelling and creativity. We have coming up also on the 18th of April, the free taster for Christina's Blossoming Breast workshop, which I highly recommend, really amazing. If you don't have an existing breast massage practice, this is a really wonderful comprehensive workshop. And the Tantric massage course, which begins on April 24th, and the free taster also for Yoni Tantra Yoga with Olia on Monday the 17th. So thank you so much, all of you, for your heartful presence. Yeah, I really feel my heart is very joyful, and I feel like spring equinox in my heart being here with all of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was
Thanks,
beautiful.
Miranda. Thank you.
Thank you.